Hello, my dear students. We are exactly at 5 months to IPMAT Indore exam. The exam is scheduled on 23rd of May. I'll be talking about what could be the paper pattern, the last few years sectional cutoff, what should be your preparation strategy for quantitative aptitude and verbal ability section, and at the end, I'll also take you through what should be your prep plan journey in the month of January, February and after your board exam gets over. So starting with the paper pattern. So if you look at historically, always IPMAT Indore had 3 sections. 2 sections are based on quantitative aptitude. One is quantitative aptitude short answer, the another is quantitative aptitude MCQ, and the third section is verbal ability section. Each section are timed for 40 minutes, which means you have to attempt that section only in 40 minutes. Even if you can complete that section earlier, you cannot go to the next section. The marking scheme for quantitative ability MCQ and for verbal ability is +4 and -1 marks. But for quantitative aptitude short answer section, it is +4 and no negative marking for incorrect question. If you look at 2019 and 2022-23 paper pattern, then in 2019, the QA short answer had 20 questions versus in 22-23, there were 15 questions. In 2019 MCQ, there were 40 questions. In 2022 and 23, there were 30 questions. And in verbal ability, there were 40 questions and 45 questions in 19 and 22-23 respectively. Why are we discussing 2019 and not 2020 and 21? The reason being, after 2019, this is the first time IPMAT Indore is going to conduct its exam in the month of May. Otherwise, the exam was always in the month of June or July. If I have to go with my gut feelings, then the IPMAT Indore should stick to 2022 and 23 paper pattern, because 2022 and 23 quant and verbal ability section, both of them had an equal weightage. You can see that there were 45 questions in quantitative aptitude and there are 45 questions in verbal ability. If we look at the cutoffs for 2019, for short answer the cutoff was 20, for MCQ it was 31 and for verbal ability it was 71. If we look at 23 cutoff, then for short answer the cutoff was 12, for quantitative MCQ section the cutoff was 39 and for verbal ability it was whooping 125 marks. So if I have to look at the number of questions that ideally a student should attempt to clear the cutoff with almost all correct. In quantitative ability short answer for 2019, as you can see, there were 5 correct that you need to go, and in 2022-23 that's 3 correct. If you look at quantitative ability MCQ section in 2019, you can say around 8 questions, and that in 2023 that were around 10 questions. For verbal ability in 2019, you can say around 18 odd questions, but in 2023, if you look at it, then that number is close to around 32 questions. So that's a whooping increase in the verbal cutoff. 2 reasons. One, the paper has slightly lowered down its difficulties, has slightly become easier, and second, due to awareness among the students fraternity, student put a lot of effort in the verbal section and hence the cutoff goes high, right? If we move on ahead, now if we look at the final selection, is it sufficient to clear the sectional cutoff for a PI call? My answer is yes. You can definitely get a PI call if you only and only clear the sectional cutoff. But the most important question should be, is it sufficient to get a final selection? I would say a slightly a negative response over there. My answer would be no. The reason being, 65% of the weightage is given to your ATS, that is an aptitude test score, and 35% weightage is given to the personal interview. So if you score higher, your chances are very high to convert, considering if you simply just clear the cutoff. We have seen, so if we look at 2023 data, okay, if you look at 125 marks, plus around 12 marks in short answer and 39 in MCQ. So 125 for verbal and close to around 51 marks for con, that is around 176 marks, right? If a student score only sectional cutoff, then a student overall score will be only 176. And the ATS would come out to be somewhere in the range of 11 to 13 odd marks. But if a student has scored very high, let's say around 200 or 220, 230, their ATS will go as high as 30s and 60s and 70s. So we have come across a lot of students who score 220s and 230s and 240s and 250s as well. So considering, if we look at that gap from 250 and 176, the gap is too high to be covered in the final interview stage. So you need to ensure that you don't clear the cutoff, but you clear the cutoff with a reasonably good margin so that your overall score increases. Now, coming to the most important question, what should be my prep plan for a quantitative aptitude section? A student always fears this section when it comes to an IPMAT Indore, because there's a myth which says that the QA section of IPMAT Indore is the toughest. I agree to that. It's the toughest among the most of the entrance test. If we put aside the JEE entrance test, apart from that, it is the toughest. But is it tough to clear the cutoff? No, it is not. If you analyze the historical data, the question types that comes in this section, then you can plan your preparation properly. So if we look at the historical data, then you'll always come across that in this section, there's always a mix of easy, moderate and advanced difficult question. You can clear the cutoff by attempting the easy and moderate question. The difficult question or some of the moderate questions are meant for, as a speed breaker, act as a speed breaker. And if you attempt those questions, if you get it correctly, higher are the chances so that you can, clear the cutoff with a reasonably good margin. The questions that are tested in this section are multi-concept application-based questions. The questions are in-depth understanding of the concept. They do not ask you, a straightforward application of formula. Then you need to develop an art of identifying what are the concepts involved in this question. For example, if I look at the 2023 question, there was a question where the concept of arithmetic progression was there and a concept of logarithm was also involved. And we always come across such questions where you need to use multiple concepts. The student need to identify whether I need to apply ABC concept or XYZ concept, what I need to apply first and what I need to apply second, so that I can save my time there. There will always be 30 to 40% of the questions which are lengthy and difficult, and these are the question type that you are supposed to skip, you are supposed to leave. And we always say that you should develop an art of leaving the question. You should keep your ego aside while attempting the IPMAT Indore section. Maybe you can attempt those questions after the exam gets over, right? So there is no point in going ahead with an ego that I need to solve each and every question that comes across. So you need to develop that art of leaving questions. Most important thing, a lot of students do not give importance to short answer section. They keep on practicing QA, MCQ, MCQ and MCQ, and with an understanding if I am able to solve MCQ, I'll be able to solve short answer. But that's not the case. Because short answer question, especially in IPMAT Indore, are designed in such a way where a student will have to spend substantial time in doing some trial and error. Few questions might be easy, but most of the question will be some doing trial and error, solving lengthy equation, solving it step by step. Where in MCQ, you can solve question by eliminating the options. In short answer, you will not have that option. So you need to make sure while practicing, you should practice the MCQ and short answer question separately. You should have a set of MCQ question and a set of short answer question at your disposal to practice. Very important, you need to be, selective when it comes to learning concepts for this section. You need to take one topic at a time, master that topic, move ahead. When you analyze a paper, when we analyze, I have broken down the entire QA section into two parts, and that's when I will speak about the selective learning in detail. And lastly, you should be taking a calculated gamble in short answer section. When I say gamble, I do not mean that you should simply bluff, because when you simply bluff, your probability is not even 1%. Okay, because you cannot randomly mark anything and assume that you will get at least one correct out of 6 or 7 guesses that you would make. You should have a calculated guess, calculated gamble, read the question, try to understand, with the experience of solving, so many questions, you would be able to at least come around to an approximate answer. For example, let me take an example. If there is a log of something to the base of root x, in short answer, we know that the answer will not be decimal, it has to be an integer, right? And if I have something, let's say log of 4 to the base root x, when it is root x, and if I want to find value of x, the x has to be perfect square. So that is the basic understanding that you should develop while solving short answer question, and maybe take a calculated guess because there is no negative marking. Now, as I discussed earlier, I have broken down the entire QA section into 2 parts. The first is the topics that will help you to simply clear the cutoff. So if you look at the topics like simple interest, compound interest, profit and loss, ratio, proportion, average, mixtures, time, speed, distance, and time and work, then few questions on cyclicity or highest power remainder from numbers and linear quadratic equation, and 5 questions on data interpretation and logical reasoning. So if you do this topic, then you can easily clear the cutoff very easily. Chances are high that you may go beyond the cutoff as well. So if a student who is from a non-maths background, then these are the topics that you should be emphasizing on, and you need to make sure that any question that comes from this topic, you should be able to solve with 100% accuracy. And you can mark my word that if you do this much, you should be able to clear the cutoff in both the QA section. Now moving on to the next type of questions. That's again almost half the paper, you can say, which has coordinate geometry. You have trigonometry, you have matrices determinant, sequence and series, that is progression, functions, inequality, graphs, modulus, logarithm, permutation, combination, probability, and binomial theorem. Now these are the topics which we consider to be slightly on the advanced level. A non-math student would find it slightly difficult to tackle this, but however, you should not skip all of them. Maybe what you should do, we discussed about selective learning. You should focus selective learning on the topics which are there on the right side. Once you are done with the topics from the left side, then you should take one topic. Let's say you feel that progression, that is sequence and series, is something that you should be able to manage. Go and thoroughly practice that. Then maybe you feel that modulus and logarithm, I should be able to do it. Go and thoroughly practice that. So take one topic that which you feel that you should be able to do it, okay, which you should be able to do it properly. Just go and deal with the topic from start to end. And very important, do not skip other topics. For example, if I talk about the modulus, okay, over last 4 years there have been 2 modulus questions. Both of them have been very straightforward, easy. There are 3 mods given. They ask you to find the minimum value. That question can be solved in 30 seconds. Trust me, that question can be solved in 30 seconds if you know the trick. So what I mean to say is that if you can thoroughly solve the few topics from the right side, and if you know the basics of all the topics, then if there are easy questions in the exam, you should be able to correct them. That will help to boost the overall score. Now, let's see what is art of leaving using an ABC strategy. Which question should I attempt? Which question should I skip to maximize my score? And we at IMS say it is as easy as ABC. So what is this ABC? It says it's abhi karo, baad mein karo, ya chhod do. Basically, this will help you to crack the 2 QA section. You need to identify which are the questions that you are most comfortable with, not in the exam. Okay, you should identify those question types, those topics before the exam that you're more comfortable with. And if you see that question type, you should solve then and there. That's abhi karo. If you come across a question that you feel that I have seen this question type, I can do it, but this is lengthy, maybe you can mark that question for review, come again and solve it later. That's baad mein karo. And the third type is chhod do. I haven't come across this question type. I don't know even how to approach it. I'm not even going to see this question for the second time. So that's how you need to categorize your both the QA section. Now, if we talk about the prep plan for verbal ability, there is nothing called as must do or very important something, because as we discussed, like, in verbal ability, everything is must do. There are 45 questions. You need to have close to attempting 85-90% of the questions, which means everything that comes in the paper, you should be attempting it. So you have questions on grammar, you have phrasal verbs and idioms. Very crucial, I would say. This phrasal verb and idioms is something that it's a make or break, because you have some around 3 to 4, 5 questions. And if you know the meaning of phrasal verb, if you know the meaning of idioms, you get 4 bonus marks or you lose it. Vocabulary, it has good close to around 5 to 7 questions. You have single vocabulary, you have double vocabulary, you will have multiple fill in the blanks in a paragraph. So, I mean, it's not a closed test. It's a paragraph completion, you can say that, where you have 3 or 4 blanks and every option have 3 or 4 vocabulary word. Then you have an RC. The IPMAT Indore always asks 2 RC. Each RC has 6 questions. Then there are questions on para jumbles, around 4 to 5 para jumble questions and 4 to 5 para completion question. Now this para completion question is different from the fill in the blank para completion that we talk about. Here the passage is given, maybe the first starting line or the middle line, or maybe something which is at the end is missing, and you need to figure out from the option which line will fit in that blank. So this is the topics that are covered in the IPMAT Indore verbal ability section. Verbal ability has always been the game changer, because you can score very high. The cutoff you saw 125, but I have come across so many students who scored 140, then 150, then 170 as well. Last year I had a student who had scored 175 marks. Okay, so that's whooping high. The moment you score 175 and if you just clear the quant cutoff, then you are at 126 marks, right? You will be at around that mark. So it's very important to focus on this section with an objective to not only clear the cutoff, but to score substantial high marks in this section. And then this section is, it tests your accuracy. I mean, we are talking about 32 correct question. 32 correct will fetch you 128 marks. You attempt 32, you get all 32. Or you attempt 40 and get maybe 36, 37 correct to boost your overall score. You attempt around, let's say, 43, 44 questions, get around 37, 38 correct. Your overall score will be as high as 150, closer to that range, correct? So you need to be not only accurate, but at the same time your speed should also be very high to attempt close to around 40 questions in 40 minutes. Which means that questions like vocabulary, grammar, phrasal verb and idiom that need to be solved in close to around 30, on an average 30 seconds time. If we talk about the overall prep plan, you need to focus on the area which are more relevant to the exam, and not, you should start practicing the LR, the blurred relation, and something in, something which is not tested in the IPMAT Indore. You need to be more focused on the question type which are tested in the IPMAT Indore. Practice the advanced level concepts which are tested in the QA section of IPMAT Indore, because that will help you to boost your overall score. I would strongly recommend that you should take the Sim IPMAT Indore test of IMS, because this test are the most closest to the actual test. I can completely vouch on my academic team for that. And the second most important thing is you should analyze that test. Without analyzing, you should not be taking the next test, because you will make the same mistake, same error in the next test that you would have made in the previous test. And we have made a separate video on how to analyze the mock. So use that feature available on YouTube on our channel. Watch that video and understand how you should be analyzing the mock. Focused on your weak areas. After analyzing, you will realize that these are the weak area. Start focusing on them. Make a plan, make a study plan that in a 5 days or a 10 days time, I should be, this section, this area should be my strong area and it should not remain as a weak area. Try to improve on that so that you can maximize your overall score. Very important, I would recommend you to solve the past paper of IPMAT Indore, that is 2019, 20, 21, 22 and 23. You will get used to and you will understand what are the question type that an IPMAT Indore test, and you should be prepared for any shocker that IPMAT Indore throws, like we had in 2023. The QA section was very difficult. If we look at the overall test strategy for IPMAT Indore, for QA section, you should be using the ABC strategy. You need to understand there should be a proper balance between speed and accuracy. You cannot say I will attempt 3 questions and I'll attempt bang on correct. What if one question go wrong? Or if you attempt only 3 questions and maybe your overall score will be not that high, so that will hamper your chances to select after the interview round. So you should be attempting a decent number of questions with a good accuracy, not focus only on speed or only on accuracy. VA section, as discussed, as a game changer, you need to score as high as possible as you can. Attempt around 50 to 70% in each of the QA section and around 85 to 90% in the verbal ability section. Solve at least 10 questions, more the merrier. We say around 10 to 15 IPMAT Indore mock paper you should be solving it, apart from the actual IPMAT paper of the last few years. Try different strategies in the mock and try to come down to one strategy that you would want to apply for each of the 3 sections at least 1 month before the actual IPMAT Indore, so that you can implement that in the upcoming mocks and in the exam. As I said, and I'll always be telling, that analysis is the key. Without analysis, you will not be able to improve your score. Now, the most important thing, a lot of students keep on asking, sir, what should be my prep plan in January, February, considering we have a board? We understand that you will have a board. So if you are serious enough and if you have little bit of time, then utilize that time for your IPMAT Indore preparation. How can you utilize it? Maybe reduce time on something which is not very essential, such as social media. Maybe you can uninstall Instagram and Snapchat and various other social media platforms, so that you can spend lesser time. Stop watching web series or some movies on a regular basis. You can save your time there on a daily basis. Spend time there. Till Jan, if you can spend 1 or 2 hours a day, I think that should be sufficient. That should be fair enough. And I am sure if you do whatever I have suggested some time back, I think 1 to 2 hours you can easily find in the month of December and Jan. Focus on completing all the topics by December end, so that in Jan you can focus on testing, taking a topic wise test. Maybe take 1 or odd mocks in the month of Jan to see where do you stand. In the month of Feb, I will not push you much, maybe 2 to 3 hours, not per day, but per week, maybe an half an hour per day kind of a thing, to just be in touch with what you have learned, so that you don't forget the stuff. And post board, it is suggested that you write 1 mock per week, very, very important, and analyze it. Closer to the exam, last 1 month, maybe you should be writing 2 mocks per week. Attend master classes. We will have 31 master classes. So attend those sessions, which are highly power packed sessions considering the IPMAT Indore examination, and attend last mile sessions, which are the strategy sessions, the last mile to IPMAT Indore session, and various live online solving that we will be doing. So that's it. All the best, and do not forget to scan the QR code which is there on the middle, that is IMS Zero Fee program. If you are not an IMS student, then this IMS Zero Fee program will help you to understand what are the features that IMS provide on the online portal. You can take 1 free IPMAT Indore mock test, which will have a video solution and the complete analytics provided, to understand where did you go wrong. Once again, all the best. Bye-bye.